In 1998, researchers at SUNY ESF radio-collared a 700-pound female moose and released her into the woods. They named her Alice. 2 years later, Alice the moose began an epic 350-mile journey northwest through the Adirondacks, across St. Lawrence Valley farmland, across the St. Lawrence River, to Ontario's Algonquin Provincial Park. Alice's journey led to the creation of a not-for-profit to protect the corridor she passed through. And she inspired a man to hike that entire path last summer. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, December 13th. First up, the man in charge of New York State's university system is one of the highest paid public education officials in the country. That's as the SUNY system faces a 20% drop in enrollment over the past decade, and multiple campuses are in dire financial straits. Catherine Wheeler reports.
WKBW-TV in Buffalo reports SUNY Chancellor John King makes $750,000 a year. That's $300,000 more than his predecessor and 3 times more than Governor Kathy Hochul's salary. King also receives $210,000 worth of allowances as a part of his benefits. SUNY's system is the largest university system in the country. King holds multiple advanced degrees, including a law degree and a doctorate in education. He's also served as the Secretary of Education under former President Obama. At the same time, colleges in the SUNY system are struggling. SUNY Potsdam has announced the discontinuance of multiple degree programs in response to a $9 million structural deficit. Last week, SUNY Fredonia announced it was cutting 13 programs. Catherine Wheeler, North Country Public Radio.
Governor Kathy Hochul signed 4 new laws today designed to protect consumers from things like price gouging and medical debt. One of the bills prohibits hospitals, healthcare professionals, and ambulances from reporting medical debt to credit agencies. Hochul says medical debt can directly impact a person's health.
You think about, a mother sitting in a parking lot deciding whether she should take her child into an emergency room or not. Is she going to be able to pay for this? She's going to be straddled with debt. I mean, the level of stress this causes. Think about an elderly citizen who's taking their prescription drugs, opens up the bottle, empties it on the table, and cuts the pill in half to make sure it can last.
Beth Finkel, president of AARP New York, says many seniors are especially susceptible.
They're living on a fixed income, and it's so much harder when they rack up debt. And so this is a great protection for them. Reporting medical debt to credit agencies can really further hobble people's abilities to be able to get loans, to get mortgages, to be able to keep their head above water.
Other consumer-oriented legislation that Hochul signed today includes requiring businesses to notify consumers of an upcoming automatic subscription renewal charge at least 15 days prior to the charge being made. Alice the Moose inspired the creation of a not-for-profit, the Algonquin to Adirondacks Collaborative, dedicated to preserving the corridor she traveled through. And last summer, she inspired a Canadian environmentalist to walk in her footsteps. Jamie Finley, a storyteller and grant writer for the conservation group Nature Canada, hiked the complete A2A trail. In the new issue of Adirondack Life magazine, I talk with him about his adventure. Here's part of that conversation. What was so special about Alice the Moose?
She walked out of Adirondack Park. She swam the St. Lawrence River. She crossed a number of roads, including Highway 401, which is a huge 4-lane highway, to make it to Algonquin Park. So that kind of shows, determination, and it underlines just how important it is for animals to be able to roam. We forget about, we create protected areas. We say, okay, here's the space for animals, but we forget that they will not stay in those protected areas. They will wander. And mammals, big mammals, often will wander hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. So Alice herself inspired me. The idea of corridor, of a travel route, a wild way for animals, inspired me, because I don't think that concept is not so well known as, parks and protected areas. And of course, it's going to become more ecological corridors, travel routes are going to become more and more important as the climate changes, because populations of animals will need to shift their ranges.
What was a challenge that you encountered that maybe Alice the moose didn't find such a challenge, and vice versa?
Okay, well, that's a great question. We didn't have to swim the St. Lawrence. And we wanted to, but we were advised against it. Alice the moose had to deal with roads, and she dealt with them successfully. But she basically crossed them, right? And to get to more favorable travel areas. But we walked them, like we walked the road shoulders, and walking with heavy packs on paved road, that wore me down. We had to stick to the roads. I mean, that brought a few adventures as well. For example, we got a ride with an Amish farmer in a horse and buggy at one point, which Alice would never have done. So you can't, our experience can't mimic an animal's experience, but I think you get a sense of what it's like to be an animal traveling.
It really occurred to me, to ask how much you were able to get into Alice the moose's head as you're, in mind state as you were, doing this.
Alice was always there in our minds. We told people about Alice whenever we talked about the trek. And when we came to likely looking wetlands, all through the trek, we would call Alice. We would see if there were moose there, and we would call her. We didn't see any moose, unfortunately. But so Alice was kind of, she was the inspiration, and she was there. She was a picture of, we had a moose on our T-shirts and so on. But who knows? It's hard to get inside the mind of a moose. We don't know what they dream of. That we don't know what they, we're actually. I don't think they really know what inspired Alice to head north from Adirondack Park.
What's your advice for anybody who might want to do the A2A trail?
Well, my advice, first of all, is that it was conceived of as a multimodal trail, and the 808 people didn't think that people would want to walk the whole thing. So there are sections, as I say, that are on roads. It's probably good if you can organize it to do those sections by bike and walk the sections and woodland sections, and then maybe canoe. So I think you can walk it, but I think to get the true experience, I think you might want to see if you could do some planning to walk sections, to canoe other sections, to cycle other sections. That's the first bit of advice I would say.
What did you hope to accomplish in your journey, and want to tell people, and what can they do?
We wanted people, first of all, to know about the corridor, to know that there are organizations working to enhance the corridor, to improve it, to conserve land. I like to think that, after the trek, and because of the publicity and because of us talking to people, if some percentage of people know about the corridor who didn't know about it before, and who know that, if, for example, they have a private woodlot, or they work they're part of a small local nature organization that connects to a larger chain, that connects to a larger avenue. That's vital.
Jamie Finley is a storyteller for the conservation group Nature Canada. You can read more about his journey following in the footsteps of Alice the moose in the new issue of Adirondack Life magazine. We have more news all the time at our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Eddie Lawrence of Moira and Danny Thomas of Canton. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.